Every single year, millions of kids, and let's be honest, millions of us adults too, tear open those iconic, brightly colored boxes filled with hundreds of tiny plastic bricks. But here's the thing, those little bricks, they've built way more than just toy castles and spaceships. They have built one of the absolute strongest and most recognizable brands on the planet. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a company that has entertained generations, inspired future engineers, fueled billion-dollar movies, and, what we're really going to focus on today, survived one of the most dramatic corporate turnarounds in modern business history. So, how exactly did a family-owned business from Denmark build one of the most powerful brands on Earth? Well, what's truly mind-blowing isn't just that Lego became astronomically successful, it's that it almost disappeared entirely. Seriously, in the early 2000s, while millions of people were buying these little bricks, the company itself was quietly heading toward total ruin. Sales were dropping, costs were totally out of control, and their product lines were just a confusing mess. To understand how they completely engineered their way out of this near-fatal collapse, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Part 1. The Hook and Origin, where it all began. The story of this massive global empire actually begins during a time of immense economic hardship. We're talking 1932 in the small Danish town of Billund. A carpenter named Ole Kirk Christensen started making wooden toys because the Great Depression had absolutely tanked the demand for furniture. Money was super tight and the business really struggled. Fast forward to after World War II, and Christensen spots a massive opportunity in a completely new material, plastic. In the late 1940s, he takes this huge financial risk. He invests heavily in expensive plastic molding technology at a time when demand was completely unproven and other toy makers were, quite frankly, highly skeptical. But that massive leap of faith, it laid the foundation for 1958 when Lego finally patented the design that would define them forever, the modern interlocking brick. Now, before we talk more about the brick itself, we really need to talk about the name. Christensen strongly believed that kids deserved well-made toys, even during the toughest of times. So his company eventually adopted the name Lego, which actually comes from the Danish phrase leg godt, and that simply translates to play well. It wasn't just a catchy brand name, it was a core philosophy guiding absolutely everything they made. And that play well philosophy perfectly culminated in their 1958 patent. Look, the modern brick looks pretty simple, almost ordinary, but the engineering behind it was absolutely extraordinary. The hollow tubes inside each brick allowed the pieces to lock together firmly, so whatever a child built actually held its structure, while still being super easy to just pull apart. Because of this, unlike a lot of toys from that era, a Lego set wasn't finished the moment you opened the box. It unlocked just endless imagination, basically becoming whatever you wanted it to be.
Part 2. The Golden Age and Expansion, Building an Empire.
So how do you take a perfect little plastic brick and conquer the world? Well, it happened in 3 massive steps. Step 1 was backward compatibility. Bricks made decades apart could still connect perfectly. This meant parents were passing down their collections to their kids. Every single purchase felt like an investment because it worked seamlessly with everything that came before it. Step 2, instead of just selling big buckets of generic bricks, Lego introduced complete worlds. We're talking themes like castles, space, and pirates. Suddenly, kids weren't just building, they were building adventures. And finally, step 3, blockbuster licensing. Back in 1999, even though some executives were terrified it would weaken the brand, Lego partnered with Star Wars. And the results? They completely shattered expectations. It transformed Lego from a simple toy manufacturer into a massive storytelling platform, opening the floodgates for partnerships with Harry Potter, Marvel, Disney, you name it. Which brings us to part 3, the abyss, runaway success. But here's the reality check. Runaway success can often mask some pretty deeply rooted structural problems. During the late 90s and early 2000s, Lego expanded so aggressively. They literally flooded the market with video games, clothing, jewelry, TV projects, and even theme parks. At the exact same time, they started pumping out these increasingly specialized non-core pieces that couldn't really be used to build anything else. Complexity exploded, costs soared through the roof, and just managing their inventory became a complete nightmare. Basically, they had entirely lost sight of their core building philosophy. And this chaos, it led to sheer financial devastation. By 2003, Lego was just hemorrhaging cash. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars lost in that single year alone. It got so bad that major business analysts and industry experts were openly predicting the company's total collapse. They were simply producing too much stuff across too many random categories and bleeding money everywhere.
Part 4. The Rescue. A simple strategy.
Obviously, something had to change, and drastically. Before the rescue, LEGO had hundreds of new, confusing products that were just causing massive financial losses. But their turnaround strategy, it was brilliantly simple. The new leadership team had a really uncomfortable realization. LEGO wasn't failing because kids had stopped loving bricks. It was failing because the company itself forgot what made the bricks magical in the first place. So they cut back. They sold off unprofitable businesses, radically slashed the number of unique pieces they were producing, and shifted their entire focus back to creating better experiences centered around their core mission, creative play. Executing this textbook corporate rescue basically meant taking 3 really hard steps. Step 1, simplify the product lines. Just cut the clutter. Step 2, dramatically cut down the unique pieces to make manufacturing highly efficient again. And step 3, laser focus on that core mission of creative play. By actually stopping their relentless expansion and actively doing less, they literally saved the company from the brink of bankruptcy.
Part 5. New Horizons, Looking Forward.
With the financial bleeding finally stopped and the core business stabilized, the company was ready to look forward again. Having saved their core audience, LEGO decided to embrace a demographic that most toy companies completely ignore: adults. They began targeting collectors, engineers, and design enthusiasts. They started rolling out these breathtaking, highly detailed sets of famous landmarks, spacecraft, luxury cars, and even botanical collections. And by doing this, they fundamentally changed how the world perceived their product. Building with LEGO was no longer just something you did as a kid. It became this relaxing hobby, a gorgeous display piece, and a genuine art form, which drastically expanded their customer base.
But they didn't just sell to these new fans. They actually brought them into the company. Another absolute masterstroke was shifting their audience from buyers to collaborators. Long before social media dominated our lives, LEGO launched programs like LEGO Ideas. This allowed fan design creations to actually become official, store-bought LEGO products. It built this incredible sense of community. When your customers truly feel like collaborators, you forge a level of emotional loyalty that money simply cannot buy.
And then Hollywood came calling. In 2014, the LEGO movie hit theaters, and it shocked absolutely everyone. I mean, critics went in fully expecting a 2-hour, feature-length commercial for a piece of plastic. Instead, they got a massive critical and commercial smash hit. The film brilliantly celebrated creativity, humor, and imagination, introducing LEGO's core values to a totally new generation. It reminded everyone that LEGO isn't about perfection, it's about pure possibility.
Part 6. The Timeless Strategy, the Digital Age.
So it begs the question, how does a physical plastic toy continue to dominate in a world that is increasingly digital? Well, the secret lies in continuity and extreme quality control. The brick you buy today works almost exactly the same way as the one produced decades ago. Their strict manufacturing standards mean that even the tiniest micro errors prevent a precision connection, so they invest heavily in engineering and automation to prevent that. But the real magic is this: innovation happens around the brick, not instead of it. Customers have total trust that every single piece in that box is going to work exactly as expected.
We live in a world absolutely dominated by smartphones, tablets, and digital trends. And for a while, a lot of people predicted physical toys would just die out. But LEGO offers something that digital entertainment often just cannot match. It offers hands-on creativity, problem-solving, patience, and that immense satisfaction of building something real with your own 2 hands. Because it's not based entirely on short-lived trends, the core product remains completely relevant. Parents eagerly introduce it to their kids because they remember loving it themselves. And that creates an unbreakable intergenerational connection. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from LEGO's incredible journey: protect one extraordinary idea and improve it patiently. In business, so many companies are just frantically chasing the next big disruption or the next big innovation. LEGO proves that you really don't need to do everything. You just need to build incredible stories around one core idea, never compromise your quality, and let generations of customers do the rest. So I'm going to leave you with a final provocative thought. That tiny plastic brick, which started as a really risky experiment in post-war Denmark, became a global empire simply because it was made so perfectly well that the world never stopped finding new ways to use it. So think about this and apply it to your own endeavors. In a world constantly chasing the next big disruption, what is your one simple brick? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some amazing ideas for you.